Welcome back to Moonshine Performance. Today we have this 355 here, and we got the heads all bolted up. We have all of the studs in, and we got the push rod guide plates right here. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go through and get all of these lined up and get these lifters on, or get these rockers on. Final assembly, basically. You know, obviously we're gonna have to go back through and not take them off, but go back through and run through the valves again. But I'm gonna get all of these guide plates lined up, and I'm gonna get all the rockers on, and then what I'm gonna do is go through the rockers. So what you do is, so these aren't even lined up yet, but what I'm gonna do, this little thing right here is your adjustment to how tight the rocker is. If you look down there, the lifter is, I mean, obviously it's right down there, but right now I am able to spin real freely. I'm able to spin that real freely. That means this rocker is not tight enough, so I'm gonna tighten that down. And you can try it up here. Now it's kind of hard to spin now. If I keep going, now it's getting even harder, and you want it to hardly be able to spin it. After that, you're gonna put your ratchet on. I like to go about perpendicular to this way of the motor, so I mean parallel with the motor, I guess, right here. And you're gonna do like a quarter turn, so we're gonna go to here and call that good. And then we're gonna go ahead and do that to every single valve. You have to do it in a specific order. We've got it written on the wall over here. And let's see, let's read it. So do intake when exhaust starts to open. So what we're gonna have to do is put this motor on, we'll probably put it on the stand and bolt the starter up. That way we can go ahead and bump the motor over so we don't have to do it by hand. We'll just bump it over, and when these rockers start to open the intake, then that means we can go ahead and do the exhaust, or vice versa. I'm sure that was probably wrong. I'll have to read it again. It's kind of, you know, tedious to remember. But what we're gonna do now is try to get this thing ready to go and try to get it on that test stand tonight. And I mean, it's a possibility to have it fired. I doubt it's gonna happen, but that's what we're gonna try to do. I'm gonna work on getting all those on, like I said, and that's all we're working on right now. We got a new bench back here, and we set all the toolbox, organized all of them, and set them all underneath there. One's under the parts washer, and we got the sander there. Obviously, it's already a mess, but this is just from the project that we're working on right now. But this welding table is gonna be very nice, and we haven't really got to try it out yet, but we're going too soon. We got to finish this thing first before we start trying that out. And that over there, oh, I got to talk about this, what we were running into. So we got this motor into sloppy here, and that drill's on top of there. We had the oil pan on. It's off right now. It's down right there. We had the oil pan on, filled with oil, and we go to prime it with this drill right here. What this does is it spins the oil pump, and we had like 6 psi of oil pressure, which is not good at all. So, you know, I'm running through my head trying to think of what I possibly could have done wrong, because I put the lower end of this motor together, you know, everything from the cam bearings to the pistons and everything like that. And I'm just kind of thinking, what could I have done wrong? And when I build things, I go through it, you know, multiple times before I finally assemble it. That way I know that I'm right. And I keep thinking and thinking, and there's nothing that I could have done wrong. So we dropped the pan, we drained all the oil, we dropped the pan, and I'll show you on Shine Motor over here. Where the oil pan bolts up, we pumped it again, and it kept leaking right from here on Sloppy's motor. This is a Shine motor, but it kept leaking right here. And all the oil was falling back out, and you know, it should be going up into those holes there, and it wasn't. So that was a big problem. It was a problem with the mating surface right here, so we had to take that oil pump off, and there was a big old burr on it from the factory, so we had to grind that off and put it back on, and it still didn't work. So we had to drain it once more, take it off again, and now we're waiting for the new oil pump to come in order to bolt it up and fire this thing eventually. We got the carburetor up here. I don't really want to unwrap it. It's a Dominator, a Holley Dominator, and it still smells like alcohol. This thing is absolutely massive. And here are the valve covers for that 355 over there, and there is the intake for it. It's a single plane. Yeah, it's a single plane. And so, like I said, I'm going to work on getting that now. Hopefully we get it dropped into this motor stand tonight and maybe get it fired. Now I'm going to go through and do all the valves. So once you get all your rockers and everything in, the motor and the push rods and the guide plates adjusted to where they're not hitting anything, you want, you know, your guide plate will give you about that much play if you haven't tinkered with it. And what you're going to do is go through the firing order on a hydraulic lift motor. and you're going to go through the firing order. So for a small block Chevy, it's 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2. So I've already gone through 1 and 8, and then 4 and 3, and I've already also done 6 and 5. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do 7 right here, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So what we're going to do, because these lifters are brand new, they haven't been pumped up with oil, so we're going to go through, well, let's start somewhere else. I'm going to go ahead and do the intake valve first, or right here, okay? I'm going to do the intake valve first. So we've got a little thing that says when exhaust starts to open is when you do the intake valve. So I'm going to grab my crowbar here, and we're going to watch one of these lifters right here. We're going to watch this one. So when that starts to raise, that's when we stop and do this valve right here, the rocker. So I'm going to turn the motor over, and we'll wait for that to start raising. It should be coming any second now. Real slow. Right there. Okay, so that's hardly raised. When exhaust starts to open, you do intake. So now what I'm going to do is go through, and there's a lot of play in that thing right now. Sometimes people go through and spin them, but for just starting off, we're going to go with how much end play you have between the lifter and the end of the rocker. So I'm going to, here's my nut up here, go through, and I still got play. Hardly going, and it's not moving anymore. After you've done that, I'm going to go ahead and get a wrench on here, right there, and you're going to go 90 degrees. So you're going to go a quarter turn, and then hold that there and tighten your lock nut down, your jam nut, whatever you want to call it. And there's that done. Now we got to do the exhaust. So the other side of the saying is do exhaust when intake is open and then starts to close. So we'll go through and turn the motor over again. We're going to watch the intake now. Alright, so it's all the way open pretty much. Now we're going to watch it, and when it starts going down, we're going to watch this one right here. When it starts going down, right there. So now we can do the exhaust. So like I said, do exhaust when intake is all the way open and starts to close. So the same thing we're going to go through. We don't have any play, so I'm going to back this off. Now we got play. And I'm just going to keep twisting and jiggling it. Right there, we don't have any play. So from there, you're going to throw your wrench on and go 1/4 turn. And then jam that down in there so it locks in place. Now obviously once you keep running this motor from initial startup, you're going to have to run through all of these again, because each lifter is going to fill with oil and throw everything off. Even if it's a solid lift motor there, it's still going to be thrown off and messed up. So that's how you do that. So now we're going to go ahead and probably get the intake on. I'm going to finish 2 over there. I'm going to get the intake on and get some pictures of it and throw it in the test stand. Now that we've ran through all the valves and got everything ready to go for the first fire up, what you're going to do is wipe down the whole entire gasket surface with acetone and a rag, even on the intake too over there. And we're going to put a big old goop of RTV on each China rail and around every single water or coolant port. So put it around there, make sure it's sealed up. There's no gaps there. You want it all sealed up. Also make sure you don't get a lot on the inside, it could clog it. And then in where the head meets the rail here, you want to goop on each one. And then you go ahead and take these and throw them right in the trash, because they are no good. And like I said, you want that RTV there, so do not use those seals because they don't work. What he's going to do is use the RTV to set that gasket in place. It'll hold it in place before the intake goes on. So you kind of see how it's gooping up around there. That's exactly what we want.
And we'll take RTV and we'll go around here too.
So on the opposite side, just on the coolant ports. You get that? Even if it gets into the hole, it's all right. Okay. Now he's going to go back around with RTV on each of these coolant ports here. So now that you have put all the RTV on, like I said, you go around each coolant port again on the back side, well, on the top side, I guess, of the intake gasket. So we're going to go ahead and get this intake on, pretty much ready. Make sure all your holes are lined up before you start. So we'll go through, line the whole thing up, This one looks good here. Okay, I think we're good. And you can kind of go through and finagle into your holes with like a little screwdriver or something like that, and that'll get you all lined up. But other than that, we're gonna go ahead and throw all the bolts down in the holes and call it done. We just got all the both valve covers on, and then we got the intake all bolted up, and got her full of oil, and I think we're ready to go ahead and get this thing primed up. We're gonna use the primer thing over there that's on sloppy, and I gotta put another half quart in roughly, and then we're gonna shove the thing in there and right in the distributor hole and prime it up and check out how much oil pressure this thing has. So we're gonna go ahead and work on that now. Got the primer on there, and we're gonna go ahead and pump this thing, just drilling it. Roughly 61. 60 around there. Our drill's dying, so it keeps wanting to just stop, but we got good oil pressure. Oh yeah, this thing's going in the test stand. All right, we're gonna get the rest of the way done. We're gonna take that thing out of there, get that gauge off there, and the next step is well, we got to get pictures of it first, but after that we got to get that lift plate bolted up and get this thing thrown in the test stand. See, a lot's happened since we last recorded, but we got the motor in the stand, got the shine headers on it to, you know, make it stand out a little bit more.
See what they sound like.
Yeah, just see what they sound like, and everything. We don't need to move the fuel tank now, obviously, because all the exhaust is going to be exiting right there rather than literally right here with blue flames. So we're good there. We had to cut new radiator hoses because the ones for the big block were too short, because obviously the big block is longer right here, so there'd probably be about right there. Well, I mean, it's not that long, but they were too short. And so we got the motor in. What we're doing now is going to wire everything up. We're going to get, well, everything's wired. We got to get the oil fitting, oil pressure gauge hooked up. Got to get the carburetor on. Got to get the radiator fill neck, radiator tube, whatever, radiator hose connected. We have to get some plugs to plug off. There's that one.
Set the timing.
Set the timing. Where's that other plug at? There was that one, and wasn't there one more?
Heads.
Oh yeah, this head plug in the side of the head right there. You got to get that off. And we got to get all these spark plugs in there and get all the wires ran. We got a little bit of work to do, but we might get her fired up tonight. What time is it now?
2 a.m. We'll fire up at 2 a.m.
Oh yeah, so we'll come back. What time is it now? Do you know? It's
10:30.
It's 11:06 right now. So we'll see how long this takes us. We now have the carburetor on. Everything in here. Everything's hooked up. What are you working on right now? Okay. We got this plugged off, that hole right there, and then I got all the plug wires run, tied up, that way they don't get into the flywheel. Everything's wired here. I got the distributor in, the timing set, and what else we got? Oh, he's drilling this out right here for the heater core for a car, and he's going to tap it right in there to put a plug in. That way when the customer gets it, he can just take the plug out and plug his heater core in. So other than that, not much has happened. We got the radiator back in, and this wiring done right there. But this thing is pretty darn close to firing. I just put all the fuel that we had in there. Well, not all of it. I got to have some for that little bike over there.
Put it all in there.
And so we're going to go ahead and try to get this thing fired. Time is it now? It's 12:40, so
Run late.
Run a little bit late. We said we'd have it fired by 12:40. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can get this thing going. Oh, we got the starter bolted up too. All right, we got this thing running right here. We only had it running for a few seconds because we don't have the garage door open. But I'm not going to show you guys in this video because the next video that I make is going to be the one that's actually selling this motor. So it's going to be, you know, going through it, showing you guys oil pressure, showing you guys that it runs, seeing how responsive it is, and making sure that everything's running good, running smooth, no misfires, nothing like that. And that'll be the next video. So, you know, this is kind of a teaser. This one's just gonna be here without it running. So unfortunately that's all we have. But I will tell you one thing, watching it come out of these headers is freaking awesome. So we're gonna have to get a video of that. All right. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.